Guys, welcome to the Badass Agile Podcast. Hey, I have a guest today, and hopefully for many episodes to come, my good friend, Lawrence Bonnema from the Netherlands. Lawrence, how are you? Are you there?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
There he is magically. He surfaces from the ether, and welcome. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It was really awesome.
Of course, I'm really looking forward to this project, by the way. I'm glad to have you here. All right, so let's begin. This week is episode 141, and episode 141 is all about being uncommon. So shall we dig in? Let the kids hear it? And then we're just going to stop and comment. And what I'm interested in is, what does this mean to you? Where have I got it wrong? Feel free to argue. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to interject your own experiences. And what I really want is for everyone who's watching to walk away with practical tips. This has to be useful for you. It's not just me spouting my philosophy, but I want to know how we can make this real for you so that it provides some benefits. So here we go. Let's dig in. Inherent in the word elite and factoring in all of my Badass Agile projects from the Forge to future projects is the word uncommon. So what does it mean? Why do you need it? How do you get it? That's this week on the Badass Agile Podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Hello, everybody from around the world. It's great to see you. Thank you for tuning in once again. I'm happy to see you this week. When you think about what the world needs right now, there's a lot of very poor quality thinking, poor quality leadership. And I feel like what we need most is truly uncommon leadership, something new, something different, something courageous. So I want to talk to you about it. But first, let's remember why we're here. To create an elite tribe of leaders who truly serve their clients and communities by doing what matters and what works, relentlessly chasing value and excellence like a badass. There's so many resources out there about what you need to do to be agile, but we're focused on who you need to become in order to lead teams. So let's hammer down those fundamentals to create a truly unique and powerful force in this industry. And guys, remember, if this helps you, tell your friends about it. And hey, while you're at it, why not check out Badass Agile on YouTube? You can also join the Badass Agile Listener Lounge on Facebook. Links are in the show notes. I'd love to see you there and on the live feed every Monday night at 7 p.m. EST. All right, I think the straight up truth is this. If you want to create, if you want to innovate, if you want to lead, and if you want to win at anything in life, you have to be uncommon. Think about those words for a second. If you're going to be a leader, you have to stand out amid the followers, right? If you're going to create, you have to make things that are new and different from everything else that's been created before. And if you want to win, you have to stand apart from and above all those that you compete with. So by very definition of those words, you have to be different. You have to be uncommon. All right, so I'll pause it there. So comments, Lauren, what does uncommon mean to you in your agile practice, in your daily work?
Well, at first, I was a little bit, to be honest, I was a little bit put off by the term uncommon, right? Because it felt like it could be the dark side of elite, where it's like you feel uncommon, you feel better than anybody else because you're so uncommon. And actually, through the Forge, it has become much more than that, much more like a positive thing, where it's mostly that you realize that being different is better than being better. It's actually not just doing your best, but doing the best that you and only you can do, like your way of doing it. So it really, to me, it ties into authenticity, which is also one of the other overhyped words. But then if you combine them, that is uncommon. To actually be authentic, not like fake authentic, but really authentic, really you. Don't care what anybody else thinks. Just do your thing and do it so well that makes you stand out. That's what it means to me.
Okay. So thanks for that. How is it? Because you and I have been working together since like October of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the Forge, so full disclosure. So that's how we get to work together frequently. But of course, you have a practice. You're a sketchnoting artist. You're an agile coach, and you're a leader in the community. So how has being uncommon, if at all, shown up for you yet? How is it? How does it work in your life? What are some uncommon things that you've done, maybe in the past couple of weeks and months, that have made meaningful change for you?
Well, the most uncommon thing actually is to just to get out there and declare yourself to be, not just open for business, but like really open for something much more intense than just doing your job and doing it well. And that was what I used to be doing. But since I've joined the Force, it's really taken up just a whole new level. I go out essentially just telling people I would like to coach you. And I'm not talking like somebody who I just met, or it's really high level executives, people that I would normally strategize to approach. Now I don't do the strategy anymore. I just walk up to them and I tell them, I think I would like to coach you. Not like that immediate, but just strike up a conversation, and then they ask me, what do you do? And I'm just like almost flippantly answering, I coach people like you.
Wow.
And then they're like, really? Tell me more. But that's like actually the first response you get, not like, who are you to tell me that you're going to coach me?
Right. So that's changed things for you, because what was it like prior to that? Before you were uncommon, before you would have pulled that stunt, what did a day in the life look like for you?
Well, mostly just working really hard, getting after it, and being extremely busy.
Right. But did you feel like something was missing? Did you feel like there was more that you should be doing?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I felt like I wasn't contributing my all, right? So I was like, it felt like I was dabbling and being extremely busy doing that, but it didn't feel satisfying.
Right.
Not as satisfying as I knew it could be. I just couldn't get my fingers around how to get there.
Got it. So I think for most people, it could be a true statement that common feels like getting up and just doing what everybody else is doing. You punch a clock at 9, you punch it again at 5, you work your butt off all day long, but you're not really doing anything courageous. In your case, it sounds like asking for what you really wanted was a big part of being uncommon for you. Doing something that everyone else probably wouldn't do, even though they wanted to.
Yeah,
Does that kind of summarize it?
Yeah, it sure was.
Let's keep listening. Let's dig in. By uncommon, I don't just mean special. I don't just mean unique. Many of us are special. Many of us are unique. But for me, being uncommon refers to the unique intersection of several qualities and, more importantly, behaviors and traits that make you not only different from many people, but those qualities that make you different than most people. Now, why do you care? Why should you want to be uncommon? Well, you don't have to. But if you're listening to this show, there's a very good chance that you feel some sort of call. There's a huge difference between serving a function within your family, within your job, within your community, and serving humanity. Making massive, memorable impact requires a very different kind of person. So I'll stop there again. For me, that was a big part of starting the podcast and the show, was that I won't please everybody. So I totally understand that if you're out there looking for, how can I pass my certification? How can I get a better job? That there are other podcasts out there, and this one probably isn't for you. Although I've done the episode on, how to spruce up your resume, how to nail a coaching or Scrum Master interview. That's really not what I'm about. That's not the big difference that I want to make in the world. So for me, the first step is saying that if you're listening to this show, there's something about what we talk about here that's interesting to you. Like you actually like the idea of maybe seeing how far you can go, maybe pushing some new limits or some new boundaries. Was that the case for you, Lawrence?
Yeah, it sure was. Actually, that was one of the things that made me want to contact you, because listening to the podcast, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to be doing with my life. I want to make the world of work better. Right. And that's like megalomania right there, right? So it's so huge. And I want to have my piece of that, to make sure that wherever I went, I wasn't just being a professional Scrum trainer and a certified whatever, which I am. I have all the certificates, and that's just to get good jobs. But that's also what it means to me. It means that I can get good jobs. But actually then doing the job extremely well requires something else, requires something more than a certificate. That requires to certify yourself internally.
Right. Now that's an excellent point, because I frequently debate whether certification is useful useful as opposed to just profitable. So from your perspective, do you think that the things that we're talking about, becoming uncommon, is that required practice for every Agile practitioner, not just leader, but everywhere in the team room? Everyone's an Agile practitioner in the team room. So your traditional roles of business analyst, developer, quality assurance engineers, architects, all of those different roles, do they require, can we try to make everyone uncommon, in your opinion? I'm curious.
Well, I think we can definitely try. At least I know I am trying. I do recognize the fact that not everybody wants to, and not everybody has to for that reason, because you should only do that if you want to. But what I do notice is that whenever I find kindred spirits and we start to collaborate, we get a lot more done together than with a normal team. So to me, that's in the essence also what uncommon in the end means. We get after it with such a passion, like a real passion for not just productivity, not just for being busy, but for being effective.
Nice.
And then essentially just doing everything we need to be doing to make that work. And if you have just a few of those people on your team, you're unbeatable.
Oh, I like that word. Okay, let's keep rolling. And it's not required. There's no law saying that you have to be uncommon. There's no law saying that you have to serve at that level. But if that's what you feel, if that's what you need, if that's what you know, then I want you to consider and put into practice the following elements of uncommon. Number one, you're going to have to be a bit vulnerable. That means you're going to be willing to go places that others are unwilling to go. You're going to have to explore yourself as a human being, as both a rational and an emotional being. Now, this means everything from examining yourself to taking feedback from other people. It means facing fears. It means looking into your past and into your future so that you can understand where you've come from and clearly picture where it is you want to go next. Also baked into the word uncommon, different, is the assumption that, hey, you're going to stick out now. And when you stick out, you're exposing yourself to attack. It's not just feedback. It's resistance. It's opposition. It's misconception. It's fear. Some people will be downright not nice about it. And there's a good chance that it could get ugly. You have to be prepared to go there. Not comfortable, because it will never be comfortable, but prepared. One of the things that makes water so powerful is that it's not only fluid, but it can also reach into places where other forces of nature can't go. So to copy Bruce Lee's words, be like water. The next thing you'll have to be. All right, so let's pause there. Is there an element of vulnerability for you? So there's two components to that. One is you're going to have to examine yourself. If you want to be uncommon, you have to figure out who you are now and what uncommon means to you personally and what stops you from being uncommon today. That's question one. The second question is, are you ready for people to beat you up in the parking lot? Because you're probably going to go out there, talk about things that other people aren't talking about. Uncommon people have unpopular opinions by definition, I think. And if nothing else that we've learned from 20, 30 years of the internet is that the minute you're doing something well and successfully, and you're attracting attention and you're growing, other people are going to beat up on you and target you just because you're doing it well. So are any of those things components? You mentioned for you uncommon meant courage. That was the first thing you talked about, having the will and the courage, the resolve to go and ask for what you really want. But what about vulnerability and exposing yourself to real examination, hurtful, painful examination sometimes?
For me, that was actually at the core of becoming the person I want and need to be, and actually who I already was, but was afraid to show. Because I've been told, like, for at least 10 years, probably longer, that I need to grow thicker skin and be less sensitive, because I'm essentially a very touchy-feely, sensitive kind of guy. I care, and I care deeply, and I like to show that I care. I actually like that part of me. But
me too.
To be successful in business, I had to be like, well, more salesy and just stronger and whatever.
Right.
At least that was what I was told. And then this year, it kind of clicked. I was like, no, I'm the guy that gives a you know what? I'm not sure if this is a clean show or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm the guy that really cares. I do care, and I care deeply, and I just want to show that I do. So I've turned it around and essentially rephrased that softer side of me that isn't like good to show. No, true strength is showing that.
Yes.
And then essentially turning that around on anybody commenting on it, because yes, you do get a ton of negative feedback on it, especially from the people that don't like that, because it makes them feel uncomfortable. And that discomfort is where they can grow, but they can only grow if you do not accept it as the truth, or if you turn the truth around on them and say, well, you know, true strength is to not care what you've just told me. I do not want to grow thicker skin. And just in case you're wondering, I consider my sensitivity a strength. So I'm going to use it on you right now. So what makes you so uncomfortable with me just telling that I love this, or that I care about the team? Or so what makes that wrong for you? What happened? And then usually they look at me and they're like, what? You cannot really be saying this.
Yeah.
And some get a twinkle in their eye. And when they get the twinkle, then I know, yes, now we can talk. And the people that don't get the twinkle, I'm not wasting a second of my time trying to get them there.
Or at least not now. I mean, they may come around later. They may seek you out later, but for the time being, if it doesn't land, it doesn't land. So I always say this, that I don't get a lot of people saying, hey, wow, your show's awesome. Love your show, blah, blah, blah. I get a small number of people who reach out and say, your show is the cornerstone of my daily. Like, this is how I get my mental set up in the morning. This inspired me to become different, to make change, to be a change agent. You changed my life. You've made things better for me. And that's the kind of, not feedback that I wanted, but that's the impact I wanted to make. And I believe that it's all because it was not about doing common things. It was about doing something that nobody else was doing. Now, let me ask you, how did you make the decision though? Because being thin-skinned or having difficulty in any way with feedback, having difficulty in any way with people not liking what you put out there, because that's very personal. How did you make the change? Because I can't just walk up to a person and say, stop being thin-skinned. That won't work. So can you recall what you went through to get there?
Actually, it was a discussion with you. So this is a doozy, because at one point you explained to me, and I think it was me and Marianne. Anyway, there was a conversation, and you explained how to respond to feedback that you're getting, even if it hurts. And I mean, most people don't want feedback because it hurts. And I'm like most people there. I'm not that uncommon. So what happened is that you just said something different than I'd heard anybody else say, because in all kinds of classes and courses, and like the certified courses, they teach you to respond to feedback like, thank you for the feedback. Yeah. And of course you're not thankful. You hate it.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it hurts. Yeah. And then the thing that you do is you thank for feedback, but you do it in a very specific way that just makes it different. Thank you for making me better. Right. And that to me was when it clicked. I said, yeah, that's, even if it's not intended as positive feedback to make you better, just saying that makes it so. Good. That's awesome. Another thing for me, because I was in the same boat as you, I'm an artist, a musician. I don't want criticism. I don't want feedback. But it just became, at one point, when I was learning to lead, the biggest piece of advice I ever got was that you just have to go first. So just do it. It sucks, but practice will make it less so. So just get out there and ask for feedback. Say, bring it to me, make it hard, make it difficult, make it tough. And then you have to remind yourself in your head that negative feedback
never comes from a place of authentically trying to help. When people are mean to you, it's coming from some other place and has nothing to do with you. So just hear it and say, okay, that's how you feel. But how I actually am is different, and it's not defined by you. So take what's meaningful out of the feedback, no matter how destructive, and leave the rest behind. And it takes practice. And the first couple of times you do it, you fail. But by insisting on having the challenge, I think you eventually become desensitized to it, accustomed to it. And sooner or later, you can tune out the negative from the stuff that's actually helpful. Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep going.
You'll have to be uncommon, is courageous. Courageous means being able to summon the ability to do in moments of great uncertainty, risk, and danger. In those moments where everyone else would say, no thanks, I'm out, or nuh-uh, too rich for my blood, you stand tall. You know what has to be done, and you do it. Unpleasant though it may be, dangerous though it may be, risky though it may be, the consequences can be high. There could be all kinds of risks staring you down. Risk of failure, risk of physical or emotional safety. The list goes on, but courage means being able to act regardless. It means doing bigger things when the rest of the world is telling you to do smaller things. Some people hear the word courage, and they think of foolish action in the face of danger. But I define courage as a refusal to do anything less than that which stretches your limits. Being uncommon means doing the work that others fear or refuse to do. That could be studying or training.
Okay, I think I went too far there, but let's talk about courage, because that was your initial point, is that being uncommon to you means doing things that you wouldn't have done in the past, like asking for the coaching engagement, building a relationship because you want to have the relationship, simply identifying what you want and going for it. Now, a lot of people that you meet in this world will know that they need to do it. And then, for example, in a public speaking situation, you can see them visibly tremble. The fear is real and it's massive. So what was that process like for you, Lawrence?
Well, I had some experience with like overcoming that type of fear by just doing it, getting after it, and like diligently putting yourself in the situation that you would love to avoid to help yourself grow. But for me, the most challenging part of that was actually helping other people do that, helping other people get to the same point. And for me, I started helping other people who were even more afraid than I ever was. For example, in public speaking. And I went all out there, really. And that to me was a challenge, because I just essentially promised them, I'll put you on the big stage and it's going to happen. And I didn't know that was going to work, but it did. And then they were there. I saw them like really shine. And I knew this is what I want to do with my life. This is the type of work I need to be doing, because not only is it like really empowering for the people I'm helping, but it's like the biggest high there is to really help somebody achieve something they wouldn't have thought possible just a half year ago. And then I turned that on me. I was like, okay, so what do I think is not possible that I could achieve? And let's do the same trick. And that's way harder, of course. Because then you have to actually work on yourself, and that requires some kind of like an inward focused courage.
Yeah, it sounds like you used other people as your pressure point, as your motivation to get better yourself. So I'll teach it probably mostly theoretically, right? Like I'm going to try to reason with you on why you should take that leap that you're so afraid to take. I'll inspire you, but it's not 100% true for me yet. However, the fact that there is a dissonance there is why you continue to push yourself. Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that a lot. It's really difficult to unfear people, right? When they're trembling in front of an audience, it's hard to tell them it's going to be okay. In my experience, a couple of things help. And one of them is inoculation. You just have to do the thing. And you can do the thing up to the ankles and then up to the knees, so you can speak in front of smaller crowds. You can speak about things that you're very certain about, that require no script, that require no tactical thinking. Things that, story about the time when you got your dog. And then you can build up a resistance to the fear that way. But I actually hadn't thought of preaching it and teaching it before you fully own it. That's really interesting.
And that's what to me also is part of this, is teaching others to accept the fear. So it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be scared. It's not okay to then not do it.
That's
so
right.
Just do it scared.
There you
and
go.
then it was like, really? Of course you can. Most people, when you see people do heroic things, they are really scared.
That's right.
Because that's normal. That's okay.
That's right.
So the uncommon thing to do then is to not freeze. Is to push forward.
Yes. Yes. Now, in the Forge, we have swim buddies. So in the event that you get too scared and you don't want me to push you, you have another partner who is like, listen, you can do this. Watch, I'll do it first, then you can do it. And I'm wondering in the Forge if that peer pressure does anything to keep you on the path.
Well, it does, because you get like this daily check-in with your swim buddy to like pull you forward to whatever you said you wanted to be pulled forward on, right? So it's not like somebody screaming in your ear to do something you don't want. No, I said I wanted this. I wanted them to keep me accountable, and then they do. And what I discovered is actually kind of weird. I don't like being held accountable at all.
Yeah.
And that's now what I'm having myself be held accountable to. So I need to just practice that, because for some reason I find it difficult that people do something I actually ask them to, which is like meta, right? It's like wrong on so many levels, but still that for me is like the biggest practice right now, to just accept the fact that it's okay that somebody just tells you, look, you're screwing this up for 5 days in a row. This is not good. What are you going to do to fix that?
Right. So having more uncommon people around you is actually a force multiplier. And you don't get that in regular society, right? Most of the people you're around are just, as you say, doing the common thing. They're kind of phoning it in. All right. Let's continue.
It
means
doing the work that others fear or refuse to do. That could be studying or training, working harder, working longer, refusing to quit, going just one extra rep, one more test, one more idea, one last push. When everyone else has already packed it up and said, I can't do this, I quit. That's enough. No more. Being uncommon means being unusually committed. It means not only persistence, but persistence over time. It means a promise to always get better. It means a promise to stand for things on which you will not flex, you will not bend. It means an offer to serve humbly. That means you continue when the payoffs don't come. That means you do the work because you must. You stay the course because there is no other way. And finally, being uncommon simply means being different. It means rowing in the opposite direction. It means swimming upstream. It means going against So before we dig in on different, let's talk about the one that gets me when I think of uncommon is I push harder, I go further, I study harder, I'm better prepared. And I'm, Will Smith has a great saying that if you and I get on a treadmill, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to get off first or I'm going to die. And I love that black and white sense of here's how it's going to be. I'm going to win. I don't care how much work it takes. I'm up for it. I'm so up for it that I'm pretty sure that you can't match me. I kind of like that attitude. You don't carry it around in your everyday. It's not how you show up with other people, but that's what's happening upstairs. Now, I'm curious if that's an element too, because I know you're an extremely hard worker. You work long hours, sometimes to a fault by your own admission. So does being uncommon also have an aspect of just, being more prepared, being prepared to go the extra mile, doing what others won't? Well, it sure does. In my case, I like to be the one who knows most, and to make sure that that is generally true, I read a lot, and not just anything. I read a lot.
Yeah,
lots of business books, lots of science books, lots of books. Period. But also lots of papers, lots of scientific articles, whatever is there to read on the topic that I'm diving into, so that by the time I speak to somebody who's like a professional in that field, I'd like to, in my first conversation with them, be considered a peer.
Okay.
And that is almost impossible if you're not actually in the field. Right. But that's like the level of preparedness that I like to do. And as a really weird example of this, I went to a psychologist once. And of course I prepared by reading Freud. I mean, all of it. And that apparently is something that normally takes years, but I read kind of fast and I have good recall. So I was in that psychologist's office, and he had to laugh after about half an hour. He was like, how did you prepare? Because he already knew, of course, that I'm the guy who over-prepares. I was like, well, I read Freud. And he was like, so what did you read? Everything. I was like, seriously, I can't treat you here. I mean, you know everything I'm going to do, what I'm going to do next. Right. And I actually told him what he was going to do next. And he was like, yeah, spot on. So now go off to group therapy with you, because being on the couch with me here is no use. You know exactly what I'm going to ask.
Right. Now you're almost telling me though that level of preparedness can be a fault.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You need to know when to stop, and then to also just essentially stop and smell the roses, to also let the experience teach you, not just the books. That was the hardest lesson for me there. Right.
So the balance.
Yeah.
I'm always talking about balance. You be prepared, but there is such a thing as over-preparing. And of course, we know that in agility. So this is a huge lesson learned that you can bring back to your teams, is that it's not always about just preparing. You know, you take advice like this and let's prepare. Let's study, let's read tons of books. But if you're reading so many books that you're not moving, that's also a fail. Mm-hmm. So the real secret of being uncommon maybe is not the effort that you put into preparation, but it's the balance that you find between preparation and execution.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, it's mostly about the execution. So the real secret to being uncommon to me, and that was like not a huge discovery, but it was a huge realization for me. I am the guy that over prepares. So I'm always prepared. But if you're always ready and never doing, then what are you doing? Right?
That's
so
right.
You need to go do.
Exactly. And we know that from Agile, right? We prefer action over sitting around and philosophizing and preparing and documenting. All right, let's keep rolling. The course, because there is no other way. And finally, being uncommon simply means being different. It means rowing in the opposite direction. It means swimming upstream. It means going against convention. It means that the accepted standard is not something to strive for. It is something to fight against. Because you choose to evolve, you choose to continue. You choose to innovate, you choose to lead, you choose to win. You simply can't settle for what everyone else would settle for. Does that sound familiar? So how do you become uncommon? It's easy. Choose one of the areas: being vulnerable, being courageous, being committed, being different, doing the hard work. Find that spot where you say, okay, that's all I can take. That's enough. No more, not today, not me. And just push back. Insist on going just a little harder, just a little more, just a little better. And not because you're being watched or measured, and not because someone is asking you to, and not because there's some reward on the other side, but because you know that this is what it takes. This is how you get uncommon. And what does uncommon get you? The limitless capacity to make impact. Dig deep, guys, and find it. If you have any questions, if you have any comments. All right, so I'll pause there. Last round. What did you think of that one? Being different. Is that something that you're comfortable with?
Well, it's something that I've always felt I was. And I was not comfortable with it at all, because I thought it was a weakness. I thought it was a bad thing. I tried to fit in. Right. Until I stopped fitting in, but then essentially also just stepped to the side, right? I wasn't as engaged as I am now. Right. And essentially, I thought of myself mostly as an outlier. And I had friends, right, so that didn't suffer or anything, but in essence, I was an outlier. Right. And then over the course of the past few years, and it's like accelerated immensely in the Forge, I've gone from outlier to trailblazer, which is still weird, still out there, but in a good way, in a what are you doing? I want me some of that way. And
Right.
and that is actually really nice because it gets me much better conversations with people, much deeper, much richer, much more emotional. And that tends to be the thing that like really drives me. I like that kind of activity, that kind of engagement. Yeah. And just by doing that myself and not being fearful about showing that to people and actually talking about it, that makes my life much, much better.
Interesting. So you said a couple of things there that are worth unpacking and really paying attention to. One, the desire to be different and uncommon, I think, has to come from within. Don't be uncommon because, we're telling you to. Be uncommon because you already feel like you're capable of so much more. Like there's something you want to contribute. There's a limit that you want to start pushing against and tap to see if you can break through. But also, one of the best ways to motivate other people is to hit home runs and let them go, what's he doing over there? Right? People always talk about how do you spread agility? Well, unless it's doing things that inspire other people emotionally, that gets them to start thinking about what could be possible for us, there's no amount of logical or rational argument or conversation in the world that will force people to take on Agile. When I was in the early days of my consulting career, we had what they called the Standish statistics, which was look at how many projects fail. 80% of projects fail in the sense that they don't deliver the most requested features, they go over time or over budget, or some combination of all three. So wouldn't you like to have someone really show you how to do projects well? So we were arguing based on rationale and stats and data. The best way to influence other people to take on what you believe in this case, Agile, or in this case, being uncommon, is to just go do it and let other people go, what's he got there? I want me some of that, as you put it. Something to think about. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for that, Lawrence. Let's just write out the last of the episode here.
If you have any comments, you want to learn more, reach out to me. You can find me at badassagile.com or on Twitter at badass_agile. Thank you so much for being a listener. I look forward to next time, and until then, stay badass.
All right, so that was a good one. You didn't hear all the mistakes. That episode clocks in at 9 minutes and 8 seconds, and there were so many mistakes in that one that it was actually 20 minutes in its original form. So talk about preparedness, right? The amount of polishing that you have to do to make something look beautiful is part of what I hope makes me uncommon. But let's make this real for people. What I took away from my conversation with you today is that if you want to be uncommon, first, it has to come from a place of believing that you're somehow different, that you have something really valuable to offer the world, and you want to explore that. Then one of the things that I heard you say was that you sometimes have to teach it in others or encourage it in others in order to inspire yourself to move off the X, to get away from the place where you've been spending most of your life, to start believing and behaving differently. And we have to inoculate ourselves against the fear. So you're just going to, at some point, have to jump in, take on as much as you can stand. I have a terrible fear of heights, and it's physical. It's not something I think about. If I all of a sudden realize I'm standing on something and it's not up to me if I fall off, I feel myself tense up. So I have to get myself a couple inches off the ground every once in a while, just to remind myself that it's going to be okay. But climbing roofs and like doing a roofing job or something, that'll never be for me. Another thing you have to realize is that badasses ride alone. So there's always going to be a sense of difference and a sense of being vulnerable to feedback. And you have to be okay with that. You have to find a way to realize that the feedback's either there to make you better or it's there to hurt you. And you have to learn how to filter out one from the other. The best way to do that, again, start asking for feedback and realize that feedback is there to make you better. So if you take on that attitude, it makes it easier to discern what's hurtful and what's useful. Did I miss anything?
No, not just for me with regard to acting on the feedback. I've found that it's actually good to let feedback ripen a little sometimes. So just take it in when you can't really do something with it because it's just hurtful. Yeah. And then still thank the person for making you better. And then wait a few days and reconsider it.
That's
and then, beautiful things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's always some good in it, right? Even if it was meant to be hurtful, there's almost always something you can pry from it that makes it beneficial. Flip that negative into a positive, man. That's powerful. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. We'll see you next time. If you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below. And thank you so much for being viewers, for being listeners. I appreciate all of you. It was a pleasure to spend time with you this week, Lawrence. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.